Blog Talk Radio. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Stress is Stressing Me Out podcast. I am your host, Maki Adeyemi, and today we will be discussing stress can be good if you know how to use it. I know, that's counterproductive, isn't it? But let's get into our devotional first. Our devotional will be coming from Psalms 57:1, and it says, "Have mercy on me, my God, have mercy on me, for in you I take refuge." And the title of this devotional is Refuge for the Rejected. George Whitefield was one of the most gifted and effective preachers in history, leading thousands to faith in Jesus. But his life wasn't without controversy. His practice of preaching outdoors to accommodate large crowds was sometimes criticized by those who questioned his motives and felt he should speak only within the four walls of a church building. Whitefield's epitaph sheds light on his response to others. Harsh words. Excuse me. "I am content to wait till the day of judgment for the clearing up of my character, and after I am dead, I desire no other epitaph than this. Here lies George Whitefield. What sort of a man he was, the great day will discover." In the Old Testament, when David faced harsh criticism from others, he too entrusted himself to God. When Saul falsely accused David of leading a rebellion, and he was forced to hide from Saul's approaching army in a cave, David described being in the midst of lions, among men whose teeth are spears and arrows, whose tongues are sharp swords. But even in that difficult place, he turned to God and found comfort in him. "For great is your love, reaching to the heavens. Your faithfulness reaches to the skies." When others misunderstand or reject us, God is our refuge. May he be forever praised for his unfailing and merciful love. Okay, let's get into today's episode. With all the media and medical attention on stress and its negative health impacts, it is easy to reach the conclusion that stress is irredeemably bad, something to be avoided as much as possible. In the back of your mind, you are saying, well, yes, me too. But think about a time when you experienced substantial personal or professional growth, or a time when you performed at your highest level, such as finishing a race, building a business, or raising a child. What was it that motivated and fueled you to grow, learn, and improve during these times? I am willing to bet that those times involve some stress or struggle. There are 3 ways that stress can be good for us. Step 1, see it. The first step to transforming your response to stress is to see your stress, rather than denying it or dwelling upon it. Simply naming or labeling the stress you are facing. For example, you might simply say to yourself, "I am stressed about my son failing school," or "I'm stressed about our year-end numbers," or "I'm stressed about my husband's recent health diagnosis." Purposefully acknowledging stress lets you pause your visceral reaction, allowing you to choose a more enhancing response. Another reason to acknowledge and see your stress is that evading it is counterproductive anyway. Mindfulness and other centering practices can help you acknowledge and transform how you are responding to duress. Each person reacting differently. Do you have a racing heart, clenched muscles, or are you in the minority who feel a sudden urge to fall asleep? What are your psychological reactions? To judge, blame others or yourself? How about your behavioral reactions? Do you check out of the conversation altogether? Rush to the refrigerator? Noticing these reactions release us from their grip and helps us shift our focus to pursuing more productive responses. Step 2, own it. The key to owning your stress is to recognize that we tend to stress more and more intensely about things that matter to us. Stress shows us that we can care, that the stakes matter. Owning this realization unleashes positive motivation because deep down we know that things that are important shouldn't always come easy. Remember the song It Don't Come Easy by Beatle Ringo Starr? Owning your stress won't necessarily make those cold, dark nights go away, but they will likely be a bit more tolerable as you discover a sense of motivation and meaning. And there been many times in my life that I cried myself to sleep all night and then get up the next day and start crying again. So if you have experienced that, I have experienced that also. Step 3, use it. Contrary to what you think, the body's stress response was not designed to kill us. In fact, the evolutionary goal of the stress response was to help boost the body and mind and to enhance functioning, to help us grow and meet the demands that we face. When the body encounters stress, it pumps hormones such as adrenaline and dopamine, which fuel the brain and body with blood and oxygen, a response which propels the individual into a state of increased energy, heightened alertness, and narrowed focus. Although the stress response can sometimes be detrimental, in many cases, stress hormones actually induce growth and release chemicals into the body that rebuild cells, synthesize proteins, and enhance immunity, leaving the body even stronger and healthier than it was before. Researchers call this effect psychological thriving, and any athlete knows its rewards. The issue, then, is not in the stress response itself, but in how we channel or employ this response. Simply reframing your response to stress as something that is beneficial can be helpful. So what do you think? What are your thoughts? Tweet me at StressingIs or email me at sismo1875@gmail.com. You can find this podcast on Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Blog Talk Radio. Until next week, let not your heart be troubled. Relax.